As soon as Khan revealed the Whitlock family, the imperial family of Rocco's empire's treasures in front of so many people, the first emperor and the once peak saint cursed Khan loudly in his head. Khan was showing all these chests and crates filled with diamonds, rubies and invaluable treasures that his subordinates robbed from Imperial Castle inside the final barrier in the Forbidden Region. And these weren't even the 10% of what he had in his space ring. As for why Khan was settling the bidding using these, because all the hard money he had in gold coins was in Dramus, the currency of the Rocco's empire. And he had no single coin called Harlan since he was new to this empire. But what he offered was indeed rarer and more alluring even to the top rich folks of this city named Oslam. What in the eternal flames of Hetrax? How does he have so much wealth? Exclaimed the dwarven noble. These gems and treasures are too rare. I think after appraising it, it will be more than 40 trillion Harlan, exclaimed one of the rich customers. WH, who is your client again? Asked the auctioneer woman, and many of the attendees also wanted to know about the identity of this immensely wealthy tycoon. Like I said before, it goes against our rules to reveal the identity of a client, replied Khan in a subtle voice. You there! Suddenly, he heard a voice from his back. It was none other than Vanessa, who was seated in a corner while being surrounded by her commanders. She signaled Khan to come towards her. Khan then slowly walked towards Vanessa and bowed in the same way as everyone did previously. Gasp! Gasp! But for some unknown reason, many of the people gasped in shock instead. The audacity of this human, spoke one of the attendees. He dares bow and not kneel in front of a fireborn? Bellowed the noble dwarf in a shirt made of gold. Damn it! What the hell is going on here? Why are there so many social customs? Asked Khan to himself, as he had no idea why he was being ostracized since the moment he bid for the body. Shoo! Don't be loud. Princess Vanessa herself is a half-human, spoke a foxkin who stood behind the dwarf. Humph! She only took after her human mother's appearance. But she's a true royal fireborn. Yet that miscreant dares show this shameful conduct. That's no different than standing up against the imperial family, retorted the dwarf. At this moment, Vanessa had a curious look as she examined Khan from head to toe. His face, build, clothes, and the confidence he had while being unafraid of everything piqued her curiosity. What's your name? And who is this client you speak of? She asked without getting angry. It's Khan Salvatore, your highness, spoke Khan in a respectful tone. What the hell is happening? Why did I suddenly reveal my real name to her? Exclaimed Khan in his mind. Careful boy. She has a sanded charm. It makes you speak the truth if you don't know about its existence, informed Rathnar. This crafty woman. She only looks beautiful, but her brain is that of a witch, cursed Khan, who was just moments away from revealing how there was no client in the first place. I'll take care of this, said Rathnar, and cast a triangle-shaped formation with a big eye in it. I have dispelled the charm effect. Don't get us caught here, boy. You can't afford to be found out here, said Rathnar. To be honest, your highness, even I don't know their true identity. I was only tasked with buying this body and given this space ring filled with these treasures, spoke Khan in a humble tone as he lied, because making up a random name would ensure that they'd inquire about that person even more and will blow up their cover. So saying that even he didn't know about their identity was the best way to not raise unnecessary questions. Well, if your highness doesn't like our offer, I shall take my bid back. I don't think either I or my client would prefer to trouble your highness if their identity is that important to you, said Khan in a gentle tone. No, exclaimed Vanessa and quickly controlled her demeanor. Since you're paying that much, I'll let your transgression go. But be careful in the future. Other members of the Imperial clan are not as forgiving as I am, spoke Vanessa. It wasn't for herself but for the deceased soldiers and their families that she was going through this unnecessary trouble. More money meant that they'd receive more compensation as well. So Vanessa let go of her pride and chose to not stretch the issue. Because she could take these treasures and through the right channels, she could receive even more money, that 40 trillion, by selling them somewhere else. After Khan's bid, no one raised another one because they simply didn't have enough money on hand. And finally, Khan luckily won the body of the Jatvarim after so many risks he took. If not for Rathnar being an expert, Khan's lack of knowledge about this empire's customs and artifacts would have thrown off his disguise. And soon, the whole Vulcan Empire would be searching for him. Khan bowed again respectfully and delivered the treasure to Vanessa's people. Swoosh! Suddenly, a black shadow passed under one of the crates filled with money that Vanessa's people handed to the Oslo auction house as 5% of their share of the deal. Just by using this one bidding, they earned 2 trillion Harlan, and all they did was act as a mediator between the seller and the buyer. All of you, tail this man. There's something suspicious about him, ordered Vanessa telepathically to her people through an artifact. As for Khan, he was overjoyed to get this legendary rank creature whose bloodline was something he desperately needed for future use. As for the money he paid for it, Khan had plans to double his gains. Khan looked back at the departing figure of this princess with a royal fireborn bloodline. Little did they both know that this first meeting of theirs was going to change both of their lives. Vanessa and her entourage prepared to leave the market hub of Oslo after they were done with the deal. Afterwards, Khan took the body of the Jatvarim inside his dimensional domain while acting as if he was using an artifact to store it. Both parties left the trading market in different directions and disappeared from each other's sight. That was a really bad deal, boy. You could have simply stolen it and disappeared. You went even as far as selling some of the imperial family's heirlooms, said Rathnar in a judgmental tone. You don't seem to carefully notice things, old man. Do I look like a guy who would make a bad deal? Asked Khan with an evil grin. Get ready. We have the body in our hands, so we're getting our money back, spoke Khan. How? Stealing from the princess would create even a bigger issue and gather too much attention. Isn't that why you bought it legally instead of stealing? Asked Rathnar. And who said we're stealing from the princess? Asked Khan in an insidious voice. Don't tell me, asked Rathnar. Yes, replied Khan. Soon, he mixed among the crowd and walked off toward a big restaurant to take some rest. Master, there are too many people following you, including spies from the princess side, reported Omega. I see many people sent by those attendees from the auction house as well, said Jugram, who was half a kilometer behind Khan. No need to worry. The more eyes on me, the better, replied Khan. As the night finally came, Khan had around 83 people spying on him after he stopped on the outskirts of the Oslo city and entered a dark valley. Swoosh! Swoosh! Soon, 15 other Khans appeared in front of him. After he became a saint, the doppelganger skill turned into a SSS rank skill as well, and now he could summon up to 15 copies of himself and use SS rank cores to keep them active all the time inside his dimensional domain, where they converted and absorbed the mana and world energy from Rathnar's core and provided the real body with ample supply of space force. Soon, all of them disappeared, and the original Khan received his boost of space force and instantly reached his maximum capacity. Khan then activated the skill to create a new doppelganger. And this doppelganger possessed all of his skills other than the divine abilities, so it was comparable to Khan before he became a saint. Simply, it was a semi-saint Khan in a way. They both nodded at each other, and the real one opened a void crack and entered inside the true dimension. As for the doppelganger, he casually walked around the city without being in any hurry, leading those who tailed him from afar in opposite direction. The doppelganger Khan was more than enough to get rid of all of these people that were tailing him. Someone like him already knew that after buying the corpse of the Jatvarim, the spies of the princess and those who wanted to steal the body from him, the ones who were present during the auction, will send their people after him for sure. But this also meant a perfect alibi, since what Khan was about to do was many times diabolical. 20 minutes later, Khan used True Dimension and entered the main building of the Oslo auction house that was filled with people even at this late hour. He speedily walked inside the main storage rooms as if he knew the directions about where to go. And finally, he stopped inside a vast room whose door suddenly opened from the inside and then closed after he reached the middle of it. Crack! Khan exited the dimensional crack and stepped inside the middle of this room. Glitter. Glitter. In front of him were heaps and peaks of glittering coins that glowed chrome blue. Unlike the Rocco's empire, the currency of highest monetary value was made from a rare metal which gave it this hue. And now he was surrounded by crates, barrels, and chests filled with it to the point most of it fell out on the ground. Tap, tap. 2 sets of footsteps resounded and 2 figures appeared behind him. A man clad in pitch-black lightweight armor and a mage in white and purple robes. "It's done, master," spoke Ronan. "We have disarmed and broke all alarms and magic formations that could alert the people of this auction house," said Cyril with a prideful expression. Khan nodded in response to these 2 Trojan horses. This was his real plan when he partook in the auction in the first place. By using those treasures to buy the corpse of the Jatvarim, he would get what he wanted while gathering the attention of the people on him, which would help him have a perfect alibi. And during the process, Ronan and Cyril jumped from his shadow and mixed with the treasures. Later, they hid in the shadow of the crate that was handed to the people of the auction house by the men who came with Vanessa. Since the amount was so big, the crates would naturally go to the main vault for safekeeping instead of being used for cash flow. And through it, he sent 2 of his best generals who excelled in getting rid of traps, alarms, magic formations, and barriers to infiltrate inside the main treasury. And after he created a doppelganger outside, he used the true dimension to get here undetected while Ronan led him to the main vault from his memory when they were brought in. And finally, they opened the door from the inside as it was crucial for the plan since Khan couldn't just destroy it using dimensional cut. Or the entire security of this place would be alarmed and they'd probably have a saint coming after them in case anyone found out. "We have been counting ever since we were done with the task. If I'm right, this place has their money stored from decades. And based on my estimations," spoke Ronan as he gave Khan a gist of the money they were going to loot. "It's 126 trillion Harlan." As soon as those words fell on Khan's ears, his expression turned ecstatic as if he was experiencing peak euphoria. "Ha ha ha ha! 126 trillion Harlans. I'm rich!" exclaimed Khan as he started laughing hysterically. Just on the second day of his arrival, he was already a very rich man in an empire where he had no connections, knowledge, or information at hand. In Verlassen fiefdom, his net worth was 86 quadrillion as its sovereign. But in this new land, this wealth was his day 2 income. For a newcomer in town like him, this was a very good start. So simply, in exchange for those treasures that cost him 40 trillion Harlan, Khan got both the body and the tripled hard currency like a buy one get one free offer. In his case, buy 1 get 3 for free. "Master, how much are we robbing?" asked Ronan. "What do you mean by how much?" asked Khan in return. "Don't tell me," spoke Cyril on the side. "Yes, we're robbing all of it," declared Khan with a grin. "Ha ha ha, that's more like it," approved Rathnar. "But master, wouldn't that enrage them to the point where to send their strongest people after us?" Khan then chuckled and replied in a carefree tone. "You see all this money, it's gained from the commission of providing deals. All they do is provide a platform for selling and take a 5% cut from it. The higher the cost, the bigger the cut. This is called white-collar robbery. And I'm sure these people don't even pay their taxes," spoke Khan as he places his hands on the chests filled with money. "And what we're doing is called tax recovery." He spoke in a righteous tone as a charismatic aura oozed out of him. "Besides, if we want to make it big in this empire and hide properly, we're going to need a lot of money. And the security here is very bad. So we're only safekeeping it indefinitely," he clarified. The next second, Khan tapped his right foot on the floor and soon, the entire wide room was covered in his dimensional domain. After his rank up, dimensional domain now had a span of 5 kilometers in radius. So this room, which wasn't even half a kilometer in length, was instantly covered in the black dome. And the next second, Khan deactivated it. As they returned to the room again, this time, there wasn't even a single coin or any chest left. The whole room had been cleaned out of everything without even making a sound. This Khan had succeeded in his perfect money heist. "All right, we're leaving," The other me has evaded everyone's eyes as well, he said, and both the subordinates jumped in his shadow. They opened the door and closed it again. Khan then jumped inside the true dimension again and quickly left the auction house while none of them even knew that they were robbed of years of wealth. Khan appeared on the other end of the city and got a room in a high-end hotel. The next morning, he left the hotel and mixed among the crowd. "Where are we going?" asked Rathnar. "To gather the information," said Khan in a firm tone. After spending a couple of hours, he got inside a vast local library and had to pay 3 times the amount compared to other species for some reason. But the rich tycoon Khan had no problem with it and soon gathered all the information and history books he needed to find in order to get enough knowledge about this empire first. And the information he gained was shocking to him for so many reasons, as he finally found out why he was getting this third-rate citizen treatment ever since he came here. The Vulcan Empire was first established after the Fireborn race took over this land. And later, they reformed the entire Dwarven race, who were actually slaves in those times. Many of the dwarves had fled back in that era, and some even went to Rocco's empire after Rathnar had died and his son was the reigning emperor. In Narnia, for cruel humans reigned as its rulers after overthrowing a witch empress. And those were some dictators they had who oppressed every other race under their rule. After the Siegfried clan, the clan of Fireborns who came from very far lands took over it. They released and freed all the races. And soon, they formed an alliance with the Dwarven race to re-establish the empire. Since both Fireborns and Dwarven race worshipped Hetrax, the god of fire, the religion was accepted as the only religious practice allowed in this empire, as Fireborns had the highest affinity with fire while the dwarves had the highest affinity with metals and minerals. 2 things that went extremely well with each other. But in the past 500 years alone, the human race started a lot of coups and caused a bloodbath in the empire in order to take control of the empire. Even one of the heroes of the past had joined their so-called revolution because he felt like humans deserved to be on the top like a textbook supremacist. But each time, the imperial family turned out to be the final victor, and when the current emperor took over the throne, he took drastic measures. The entire status quo of the Vulcan Empire was changed. And now there was a completely different status quo in society. The elites who stood at the top were the Fireborns. The second most powerful and respected race was the dwarves. Third part belonged to demi-humans such as wolfkin and other species. Fourth were the hybrids between many different species. And lastly were the humans. As things stood, humans were subjected to social injustice, harsh treatment whether it was a job or even a business. There were places and institutions where humans were barred to enter. And even the soldiers in the military were not allowed to rise in ranks past the captain's position. It didn't matter if one was talented or not. The humans were the scums of society and treated like dirt because of what their ancestors did. Khan now finally understood why humans were treated so harshly in this empire's social structure. If it was the old and foolish him, it would have boiled his blood. But the current Khan did not feel an empathy towards the humans of this empire. Not because he had become cold or heartless. Rather, he understood why the reigning emperor took these drastic measures. No matter which world, humans were always the curious and rebellious race. And in the past 500 years alone, they had caused too much bloodbath in this empire, so he understood why the current situation was so adverse. This explained why Khan was getting such a second-hand treatment and get ostracized everywhere he went because he was a human. But the him of now didn't care too much about it, since he wasn't some savior or beacon of hope for the human race in this place. And neither did he have any intentions to start a revolution. And thoroughly going through the study about this empire's social structure, notable historical events, and in how many regions it was divided, as well as the topographical variations concerning people, their life standards, upbringing and set of beliefs instilled in the populace of the empire, he finally gained the necessary information that was more than enough for him to survive in the new land. Khan came to realize that soon, he'd need to travel and find a safe haven for himself to raise his levels and ranks while being in hiding, and also find a way to gain more resources and money, since with each rank up, he'd need twice the amount compared to other saints. because the technique taught to him by Rathnar and using the Chamber of Exaltation was a powerful means to ensure that he was always the strongest compared to others of his rank and levels. But the lesser dragon's body was only enough till he became a second-stage saint. After that, he'd still need external sources since he couldn't absorb Rathnar's core until he was a fourth-stage saint. So Khan kept going through books and tried to find anything available on the god who summoned him and the forces who served him. Obviously, the information about God of Darkness, the Abyss Empire and its location was non-existent in these books that were mandated by the ruling authorities. The information on ruling powers, who controlled what and established governing forces was not provided in these books. A classic method to keep the population in the dark. All it took was 300 years and they had erased the existence of those things from the world by carefully brainwashing the generations of people and turning truth into myths and folktales. And finally, Khan reached the most important topic that he needed the information on: the gods and empires. One by one, Khan went through the details of all the gods, the respective empires that served and worshipped them and which prominent species or forces ruled over them. In the end, he wrote down a list for himself after carefully gathering the superficial information that was allowed in this empire. There were a total of 12 gods that people were led to believe. And out of the 15 empires that existed in the world, 12 of them served and followed the doctrine of all of them. 1. God of Light. Name, Aetram. Empire, Valgus Empire. This empire was controlled and run by angel species who also call themselves Lightbringers. 2. God of Fire. Name, Hetrax. Empire, Vulcan Empire. Ruled by the imperial clan of the Fireborn species. The one Khan was currently in. 3. God of Sea. Name, Itaseso. Empire, Tengair Empire. This was an underwater empire, run by Farage who were a mixed group of sea folks as well as various aquatic species and identified as a community regardless of their species or origins. The empire was one of the 3 biggest empires of Vantria as it was literally the biggest sea in the world. 4. God of Space. Name, Raum. Empire, Erdv Empire. Controlled by the Rimdan species. Although there was no information about their appearance and physical structure, this was the only race in the world that was proficient in space magic and abilities related to teleportation. 5. God of Time. Name, Vremya. Empire, Amzer Empire. Run by Vrijim, the descendant species of ancient creatures who had time-controlling and shifting abilities. Among all the other empires, this one was the only one that didn't go to war with any other empire. And even changes in ruling powers were caused only from the inside. 6. God of Sentience. Name, Judigas. Empire, Urzo Empire. Ruled by the Sidiasi race, a highly intellectual species that was considered to be the most advanced civilization among all the other empires of Vantria. These people were equivalent to the Kryptonians of Vantria. Even with their low birth rate and limited population of 1 billion people, they were untouchable and no empire ever won a war against them ever since its founding 700 years ago. 7. Goddess of Knowledge. Name, Minerva. Empire, Viden Empire. Run by the Kenna species who were akin to Martians for someone from the Earth. It was an empire with many descendants of archaic species from old times and probably the most advanced empire when it came to magic formations and artificing, as the goddess Minerva's decree to her devotees was to broaden their horizons to the world and use mana and world energy to create new ways to prolong their lives and improve their civilization. Updated from COM 8. God of Life. Name, Gyvenimas. Empire, Zivit. Run by the Elven species. This was the empire on the other side of the Vulcan Empire where Khan could have possibly gone to had he not chosen to be in the Fire Empire when he was in No Man's Land. 9. God of Earth. Name, Zemlja. Empire, Erda Empire. Ruled by the Pamant, a species that had natural abilities to control the terrain and even travel through the solid ground as if flying in the sky. 10. God of Lightning. Name, Krater. Empire, Fulgur Empire. Ran by the Eldingar race, a species with inborn affinity with the lightning element. Their bodies shared the resemblance with humans, but had many additional traits in their appearances. This was an empire nobody dared to pick a fight with, since the entire empire was full of beings and creatures with control over lightning, one of the most destructive elements of the world. 11. Goddess of Wind. Name Aponia. Empire Vigil Empire. Ran by a joint community of species called Uccello. The majority of the species in this empire had wings, and some of them could transform into bird-like flying creatures or small humanoid bodies. Overall, it is mostly filled with flying creatures and species. 12. God of Nature. Name Termesit. Empire Nader Empire. Run by the Beastkins. It was an empire fully made up of beastkins and demi-human races. And as per the history books, humans were barred from entering this empire and would be killed on sight. Mainly due to some human empires of the past had waged war on them and enslaved them for centuries. Even the summoned heroes of this empire were subjected to constant monitoring. With this, the information on the gods and their respective empires ended. As for the rest of the empires, there was nothing available on Dragon and Demon Empire other than them being ruled by dragons and true demon species. No information about their rulers or the power structure, their society, culture, or what kind of different races inhabited them was available. There were also over half a dozen separate kingdoms spread across Vantria. But compared to the 14 vast empires, these were like small islands. And the strongest and biggest of them all was called the Belmont Kingdom. A kingdom ran only by the vampire race, and it was created 250 years ago. But no one had any crucial information on it, just like the Dragon Va Demon Empire. As for the last and final empire, there was no mention of it, as if it never existed. Khan understood that it was the Abyss Empire, but he already knew that it was called the Abyss Forest now, and there were many god beasts living in it. And just as he expected, there was nothing available about God of Darkness. And what happened 300 years ago? According to their books, the previous heroine of fire died while fighting a god beast. But no mention of where and what kind of god beast it was. So after 2 years of his time in Vantria, Khan finally had the idea about who were his said enemies and what kind of powers, species, and forces he would have to face in the future. Khan then understood one crucial thing. That if he ever wanted to become strong enough to face these empires in order to protect himself, he had to find his divine weapon. While Khan spent the whole day gathering information about the present empires and gods of Vantria along with the races that ruled over them, a royal warship flew over Oslam City. This warship didn't have the sigil of the imperial family, but every single citizen who saw it flying above their heads started shouting and cheering like fangirls. Even the security of the Oslam City or their battleships did not dare to stop their way, and even created an open path among the flying ships. Soon, this warship absconded in the farther parts of the mountain range, completely out of everyone's sight. As for this gigantic warship, which was big enough to fit 20,000 soldiers in it, a group of 1,000 workers operated it, and in the main cockpit that was as big as one from a particular space-themed movie franchise were 9 people. All these people varied in races, sizes, and appearance, and some were even in their 40s. But the most notable thing about this crew was something else. Every single one of these people was a saint. All these people were seated on their respective throne-like chairs while 10 pilots below their floor routed the warship. And at the top among their seats was a dark red throne where a man around the age of 30 was calmly gazing around the scenery from the wide glass window. Soon, their crew of mighty saints reached the battlefield that was drenched with blood just yesterday. Lord Axel. Yesterday, Princess Vanessa killed a legendary rank creature called Jatvarim. It could change forms and even killed 300,000 soldiers and destroyed over 2,000 battleships in just an hour. Spoke a succubus enchantress with 2 blue bat-like wings on her back and 2 black horns protruding out of her head. As per the reports, it was comparable to a second-stage saint. Yet she killed it by herself within an hour. Spoke a dark elf in red attire for scholars who seemed to be in his 30s but was actually a century old. And finally, the person they were addressing stood up and walked close to the window of the flying warship. This man had wavy blonde hair, blue eyes, and was currently donned in a legendary rank black and red armor. This was none other than the man who was tasked with ensuring if Khan entered the Vulcan Empire or not, since the top powers couldn't come this close to no man's land. Axel Lobthrox, 9th summoned human hero and the current hero of fire. Lord Axel, the Imperial decree is to confirm that the new hero of darkness might have arrived in our empire from no man's land. Although we can't enter it, one of your divine abilities might help us track him, said a second-stage hybrid saint who looked like a human but was actually half-orc and possessed the genes of both species that made him 3 meters tall. I sense that there's more to it than what they're telling us. He spoke in a firm tone. What do you mean, Lord Axel? Asked the succubus. Edna, don't you think sending the entire heroes party just to track one person is kind of overdoing it? The Empire's spies are more than capable of finding this hero of darkness you speak of. Yet they sent us right when we were close to purging the riots in the northern border, the other end of the Empire. Spoke Axel as he put both hands on his waist. It looks more like they want me to be the face of it and avoid direct involvement. I know all you have your complete loyalty to this empire, but I keep getting this feeling that all of us are just being used as scapegoats, said Axel and turned his head around. We all know that no man's land is a prohibited zone, yet here we are, sent to track one man. If I'm not wrong, if anything goes wrong there, we will be the ones to take the fall, and the Empire will say that it was Heroes Party who infiltrated on their own volition. He clarified. To this declaration, everyone's expression turned grim as they too understand the situation, because what Axel said was the truth. After half a day, their warship reached the foremost region of the southern border, and their group exited to venture towards the no man's land on their own. After crossing over 100 kilometers by flying in the sky using their Saint Force, Axel finally signaled his group to stop. They currently hovered in a junction between valleys, and it was the only entry point available to enter the Vulcan Empire if someone came from the no man's land. The next second, Axel's body let out a scarlet-red aura, and soon, a 10-meter-tall massive ethereal eye that glowed yellow and radiated a divine aura came to be. Axel then clasped his hands and closed his eyes. In the following moments, the Eye of Sauron, arm, this divine eye expelled a yellow beam of light and illuminated the whole 2 kilometers of the region. Suddenly, Axel opened his eyes and looked to his left. Swoosh! He appeared a few hundred meters away and stopped at the top of a cliff. Right now, he just used one of his divine abilities called Sage's Eye. It allowed him to gather information about everything in this world, whether it was some ancient artifact or some long-lost heirloom. And just now, the Sage's Eye allowed him to sense the aura of darkness element. Axel's body then emitted a blue fire that quickly spread across 1 kilometer radius. But neither was this fire hot or burned anything it touched. Rather, it revealed the past of this region as the winds passed and trees fluttered. Even the positions of the suns were replicated in the sky. This was his another divine ability, chronovision, the ability that allowed him to recreate the events of the past in any particular place. There's something wrong here, spoke Axel and used Sage's Eye again. There! Suddenly, Edna spoke as she pointed her finger behind Axel's back. All of their party members were shocked to see the figure that appeared behind Axel. A blue holographic silhouette of a man who was taller than Axel came to be. But other than a blurry, intangible humanoid shape that vibrated and appeared like a white mist, there was nothing visible. No face, eye color, or the type of clothes this humanoid figure wore. By using 2 divine abilities together, Axel instantly found out Khan's location. However, since Khan was traveling this region using the true dimension, only his ethereal form was unveiled by these 2 divine abilities. The only thing they could not see through. This affirms that the hero of darkness is indeed in the Vulcan Empire, exclaimed a female archer tomboy look who had white ears and a long furry tail of a fox. This guy is indeed crafty. God Hetrax told me that nothing can hide from the Sage's Eye in this world. Yet somehow, I can only see a silhouette and not his real face or appearance even after running through the past. It must be one of his divine abilities, spoke Axel with a thoughtful expression. Lord Axel, we should quickly report to the capital that he has indeed entered inside the Vulcan Empire, spoke the scholar Dark Elf. But before he continued, Axel interjected. And what do we get if we reported it? Asked Axel as he raised his left eyebrow. What do you mean, Lord Axel? Asked Edna again. Think about it. Even with my divine abilities, we don't even know what he looks like. I can't use both of my divine abilities all the time, so tracking him will take a lot longer. Plus, if we report about his existence, all we have accomplished is being a good informant. Under no scenario is reporting the truth useful for our party, clarified Axel. Just then, another member of the party spoke. A white-haired hybrid woman with the head of an eagle and 2 black wings behind her back decided to intervene. I assume you have other plans. Am I right, Lord Axel? She asked in a curious tone. Axel's hair fluttered as a strong gust of wind passed by. He let out a sigh and spoke in a gentle tone that reached to all of their ears. My plans, you see. It may appear like the most outrageous and crazy idea to all of you. Some of you might even disagree with me instantly after hearing it or think of it as an act of treason. But I hope you hear me first and allow me to explain my reasons, replied Axel. And what is your plan? Asked Edna again in a curious voice. Axel then gave them all a stern gaze and spoke in an authoritative tone and with resolute eyes. We hide the truth about his arrival. The whole party was flabbergasted as soon as Axel Lobthrox, the hero of fire, had suggested hiding the truth about the hero of darkness arriving in their empire. Blasphemy! That's no different than high treason, shouted half-breed orc warrior with a giant battle-axe in his hand. But to his response, Axel turned his head around and spoke to the second stage saint. Tell me, Tamek, what did we do in the past 1 year other than stopping some local rebellion and killing some low-level monsters? Asked Axel and looked around his teammates with a serious expression. Although I was much welcomed in the Empire after my arrival, and all of you were recommended to enter the Heroes Party, did we really achieve anything on our own? All of our achievements are aided by the Imperial family, and even to this day, we are still seen as nothing but chess pieces. They tell us where to go, how to behave, what to speak to the people, and who to help or kill. He spoke in a heavy tone. Even your clans and parents see you all as nothing but glorified decorations who join me in parades and events decided by the Empire where all we do is smile and wave hands at common citizens. They are using me as a symbol to raise people's hopes and loyalty to God Hetrax. And as things stand, we are becoming a thing of the past. Nothing but pawns for everyone to throw around here and there. He iterated. To his words, none of them seemed to have any intentions to retort, because this had been their reality from the past year. All of them were the talented young prodigies of the Empire back in the day when Axel was summoned in the Vulcan Empire. They had their goals and their ambitions, and through their hard work, they earned the right to enter the Heroes Party, the biggest honor for any young prodigy in the history of their empire. But instead of walking the path of heroes and saviors who aided people in need, they had become nothing but puppets who didn't even have the right to leave the party now. We don't have any real achievements since I arrived 5 years ago. If we continue at this rate, it won't be long until we become nothing but clowns for the ruling authorities. He continued. The Imperial clan doesn't care about us and neither does the church. We're just here to make appearances in front of the people. I haven't even managed to make a breakthrough to the new rank because of how they keep me parading as their poster boy all the time and force me to attend their pretentious banquets between nobles. He spoke and clenched his fists. What are you suggesting, Lord Axel? Asked Michaela. Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it? Or just let it slip? Said Axel as he presented a plan. If we tell this to the Imperial authorities, they will capture and kill the hero of darkness. But if we say that he didn't enter and search for him by ourselves, we can not only do the job, but get all the credit for ourselves. That would also ensure your bright future in your clans, as well as solidify your positions to become the leaders of next generations. Proposed Axel. This is truly a godsend opportunity, and we can't just let go of it in the name of loyalty or patriotism. His core is also one of the keys required for the final piece. If I have that, what do you think will happen? He asked in a smug tone. Not only will I be a hero to the Empire, but my name will echo through all the other empires of Vantria. And as part of my party, all of your names will become historical figures as well. So I propose that we hunt him on our own without reporting to anyone about the truth. And once we're done finding him, killing him won't be a problem since not only I'm stronger but we also outnumber him greatly. We will become the true heroes of the whole world, he said in an excited tone. We have much more to gain by keeping this a secret than just reporting it to the authorities like loyal soldiers. So are you all going to be little obedient children and take charge of your fate and earn that respect and prestige that all of you have been working so hard to get for decades? Spoke Axel as he tried to rile up his comrades. A heated discussion happened between the 9 members of the Heroes Party and finally, they reached a consensus. This is the biggest risk I'm ever going to take in my life. But you know what? Spoke Tamek. Damn those bastards. I'm done being their pawn. He declared. Yes, I too feel like I never got to use my abilities to the full extent. So what if this hero has some divine abilities? He is only one person at the end of the day. Spoke Michaela. Besides, he doesn't have one thing like us. Spoke Edna, the succubus enchantress, and continued in a vehement tone as everyone listened to her with a joyous smile. The power of love and friendship. The next day, the main target of the Heroes Party, the man who aspired to be someone who couldn't even be defeated by the power of love and friendship, left Oslo City using the true dimension. 10 days later, he was finally close to the biggest and most important city of the Empire instead of hiding in a border among mountains and caves till he ran out of resources and ways to increase his strength to the higher rank. Instead of hiding like rats in a hole, Khan and the company decided to enter Lion's Den. And finally, they reached 100 kilometers close to the heart as well as the capital of the Fire Empire, Arkensen. Khan and the group stayed at an inn outside of Arkensen where Omega acted as the leader and Khan only acted as a servant of the group to keep their status quo in check according to the social structure of this empire. And at night, Khan finally heard a loud noise in his mind during sleep. The system has been upgraded to version 2.0. Alright then 2.0, tell me what's new in the software update, said Khan in a humorous tone. Because of the host's breakthrough to a new rank, many functions for the system have also become available and the previous interface has been greatly improved. Following are the newly added functions. The host can now directly absorb the bodies of any deceased being, gain their abilities, skills and bloodlines because the plunder skill and space law acquired by the host have morphed and adapted into a new form of power. The host no longer has a need to touch any being's body or eat their cores. The system will help the host automatically absorb it and allow direct absorption of the energy from the source. Current range, 10 kilometers, listed the system. Finally, exclaimed Khan in joy, because previously, the plunder skill only allowed him to convert energy, mana and world energy from resources such as mana cores and ores. And with the newly unlocked function, Khan could absorb the entire body and harvest the energy in it to raise his levels as he did with the Guardian Dragon. But it was limited only to increasing his levels and world energy stage. It had nothing to do with gaining abilities or anything else from the corpses. However, this new function after the system was finished with the update allowed him to bypass that restriction. So no more touching the mauled and bleeding corpses to absorb abilities and bloodline like a creep and spend hours standing or squatting while using ability absorption divine ability. All Khan needed to do was just pull the body into his dimensional domain and let the divine ability do its work. He could also control if he wanted to keep the body or completely absorb it as well. So this was indeed a big upgrade for him. And on top of it, the range was 10 kilometers. So he could gain hundreds of abilities and bloodlines all at once from thousands of dead bodies instead of going through them one by one. Next, system continued with the new details. Following are the dimensional law abilities that have been upgraded. Dimensional domain now has a total span of 10 kilometers due to the host's rank up to Saint rank in space law. Dimensional cut now has a range of 5 kilometers. The host can target anything or any being in this range and attack or kill them using the dimensional cut skill. Dimensional shift has been greatly enhanced. Host can now transfer 3 body parts and organs inside the true dimension at the same time. Dimensional void can now be accessed at host's will, and a void crack will automatically appear in front of the host within having the need to cut through 2 dimensions using a weapon. All these abilities will receive an increase in range with each of the host's future level-ups and breakthrough to higher ranks, reported the system. The next second, Khan quickly activated dimensional domain and covered only his body under it while leaving the rest of the room alone. Wahahaha! 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 Laughed Khan like a maniac and reveled after hearing this information. This was simply too big of an upgrade. Previously, when he became a saint, the range of these abilities increased by 5 times. His maximum range was 1 kilometer, and that too was only for dimensional domain before becoming a saint. Later, it increased to 5 kilometers while other dimensional abilities received some increase in their range as well. But after the system update, the total range was doubled for all of them. And the number of organs or body parts he could transfer to the true dimension also rose by 3 times. To top it off, he no longer needed to manually open a void crack using Space Force encapsulating Lucifer. Now he could step inside them at his will. And the cherry on the top was that all of their ranges will increase after he leveled up and made a breakthrough. This was definitely going to help him in the future because while facing an army of thousands of opponents, he could simply pull them all inside the dimensional domain and reduce their stats by 65%. This way, the enemies will clearly lose the advantage of numbers and Khan will have the upper hand in both one-on-one or an open battlefield. Suddenly, Khan heard another notification from the system. King of the Dead has been upgraded to legendary rank and renamed as Sovereign of the Dead. The skill now has a span of 10-kilometer radius from the host's location. The host can now directly create subordinates and evolve them using Synthesis Divine ability without needing to touch them while merging the bodies and select which body to be merged with which one despite their locations and distance between them. The host can also directly evolve them into higher ranks as long as the requirements of specimens and resources are met instead of evolving them one by one and then merging again. The range of Sovereign of the Dead will increase with each new breakthrough to higher ranks. Informed the system. Stunned. Khan was too stunned to speak. As if this humongous upgrade in dimensional law skills wasn't enough. Now even the ability he absorbed from the Undead Lich in Bromner Dungeon went straight from SS rank to legendary rank and now unlocked additional features. System, what caused this upgrade? Asked Khan in a bewildered voice. To his query, the system replied casually as if it was no big deal. The host's darkness element capacity has increased. Because of what? He asked curiously. And the system finally revealed what caused such a major upgrade. The body of the darkness element dragon. Khan was left speechless by this revelation, because he had already absorbed most of the darkness element from the guardian dragon's body when they fought. But suddenly, the system said that it ended up increasing his reserves even more. And even now, he was only half done with absorbing its body. So there was a possibility that his darkness element reserves will either increase in capacity again or the quality will be improved. Show me the current darkness element capacity. Commanded Khan. Darkness element reserve capacity. 50%. Bloody hell. Did it go from 43% to 50% just from absorbing half of the body? Will it increase even more? Asked Khan. No. The quality of the host's darkness aura, dark magic and darkness elemental skills and abilities will be improved and the skills will get additional output damage and effectiveness. Reported the system. Tell me the current boost after I became a saint. He ordered. Darkblade, Dark Lightning Strike, and Darkness Barrier have become 5 times stronger in terms of attack damage output and effectiveness than before, and their range has also multiplied by 5 times. All of them are currently at saint rank. Replied the system again. Good. If there are any more surprises because of the upgrade, tell me now. Said Khan, who was already content with the new update. Ruler of the Night ability under Hero of Darkness title will now get an additional 10% increase in stats and buffs. It will increase with each rank up. From now on, with each rank up, the host will receive additional 15% stats to all physical attributes. Time to use Synthesis and Ability Absorption Divine ability is reduced by 40%. All of the host's abilities and skills have an additional 20% boost in effectiveness and range. The system will undergo another update after the host becomes a demigod, said the system in his head. 15%. 15%, exclaimed Khan. And that too will increase with my rank? Good dear Lord, said Khan as he smiled happily. Because the Hero of Darkness title, which made him 3 times stronger at night, was going to get an additional 10% boost. Means if he ever became a peak saint, the 10% boost will become 100%, and since the base value was 3 times his original stats, the additional 100% meant that he will have another 3 times boost stacked on it. In simple words, Khan, when using the Hero of Darkness title at peak saint rank, would be 6 times stronger than his original saint. And with 15% boost in all physical stats at that rank meant 150% additional stat points, making him 1.5 times physically stronger compared to any other peak saint. It also meant that there was a chance that he could fight a demigod while only being a peak saint, just like Kravel, the war deity, could do. So after tallying all his gains after the system's upgrade, Khan concluded that this upgrade was nothing but a miracle to him. Khan calmed down and then asked the system, "Let me ask you something. I expected there to be some sort of user guide when God of Darkness gave me the divine, but you're far too advanced to be just a guide interface. On top of it, just me breaking through to saint rank has affected you as well. So mind clearing my doubts?" queried Khan. The system is only an interface provided by God of Darkness to the host because ability absorption va synthesis are unique divine abilities that need the knowledge about all species in the world and information about how skills and merged abilities work. Otherwise, there are many possibilities and conditions while merging subordinates or any skill that may adversely affect the host. The system is there to monitor the usage of those 2 divine abilities, terminate anything harmful to the host, and provide the best suited outcome, clarified the system in a lifeless tone. Then what about the other chosen heroes? Do they also have a system? He asked again. The system is unaware. The possibility cannot be denied that the other gods did the same for their respective heroes, but there is no solid evidence of that to be the case either. It replied, I guess I'll have to be careful if I ever face a hero. Who knows if they have one as well. It's better to be careful than thinking that I'm a special case, said Khan. SSXSS. The next morning, he decided to delay his departure and sent Omega and Ronin to gather necessary information about the capital Arkensen first, all of its regions, ruling powers and authorities, as well as the local business overlords and underworld organizations that controlled the capital. He already had enough money to get his hands on top-grade and detailed information. And this place was something he could not afford to be negligent about and end up catching the attention of people he was trying to avoid. Meanwhile, he entered the dimensional domain again, and this time, he stopped in front of a massive 100 meters tall body that still looked freshly charred because of how things worked inside his domain. Khan now stood in front of the corpse of Jatvarim, the legendary rank monster with metamorphosis bloodline. Previously, he sold off a small portion of his wealth that he stole from the Imperial Castle and bought the corpse in an auction. But he intentionally didn't absorb it because the system was going through an upgrade and he didn't want to risk anything in its absence. Back then, Khan had no idea how the update was going to affect him, so it was a reasonable choice to wait for 10 days. This time, Khan didn't touch or formed any form of connection with this legendary rank creature that could shapeshift and use different forms based on the situation to kill its enemies. But after the surprises he got during the night, he felt that it was a wise decision since absorbing it now could be more beneficial. Khan folded his arms behind his back and spoke with a gentle smile. Activate the ability absorption divine ability. Khan stood 5 meters away from the corpse and commanded the system to start absorbing abilities without touching it. This was going to be one of the memorable moments for him. Since the first day of his arrival in Vantria, Khan always had to physically touch the corpse and wait for hours to get their abilities and bloodlines. Sometimes, He had to endure the pungent and intolerable smell coming out of the bloody corpses for hours. And in the case of the legendary rank monsters he hunted in Verlassen, it often took 7 to 8 hours where he had to stay silent and wait till the procedure was finished. But now, he no longer had the need to do so, and he could keep a body in his dimensional domain and still carry on with ability absorption while he was doing other works. This was a moment of liberation for Khan, so of course, he wanted to enjoy this with his own eyes. And now that the system upgrade reduced the time needed to absorb these bodies by 40%, it took Khan barely 5 hours to completely be done with the process instead of the usual 8 to 9 hours. Report. Following are the new abilities and skills acquired by the host. Physique transformation, legendary rank, passive, allows the host to transform into any being and creature the host has a complete bloodline of without any delay or harm done to the original body. However, the host must learn to function and move in these different forms by himself. Bloodline assimilation, saint rank, active, allows the host to mix different physical and magical traits of different bloodlines the host is already in possession of while perfectly balancing the physical structure of the host. The host must possess a significant portion of bloodlines and physical skills for them to fuse. Note: since the different physical magical traits of the different bloodlines will put a huge strain on the host's body after using them to merge, the activation span of the skill is short. Current time limit, 30 minutes. Bloodline, Jatvarim bloodline. Current bloodline purity, 60%. Note: the host must absorb the core of Jatvarim. Reported the system. That was short, said Khan, but without a delay he started absorbing the core as well. In just 30 minutes, he absorbed the core using the plunder skill he got from the Guardian Dragon. System then notified him that he rose by 6 levels just from the core alone. Normally, even as a saint, it would have helped him rise at least 20 levels, but because of how Khan used the Chamber of Exaltation, he only received 6 levels of increase since he needed double the resources to level up. Congratulations to the host. The Metamorphosis bloodline from Uthrakairos and Jatvarim have perfectly fused. The Metamorphosis bloodline has been upgraded to mythical rank. Following are the newly merged skills and abilities. Absolute transformation, mythical rank, passive. The host can now transform into higher rank beings regardless of their rank and species, such as dragons and even god beast if the host has 100% bloodline purity. During the transformation, the host will possess the perfect and identical aura, presence, abilities, and elemental affinity of that species or race. Bloodline fusion, legendary rank, passive. The host can now create variant bloodlines by himself and even impart those bloodlines to the subordinates who have met the 100% loyalty condition. The resultant bloodlines will be greatly enhanced, and the abilities and skills gained from different types of bloodlines will naturally adapt and adjust to the host's physiology. Congratulations to the host. Azura mode now has a better rate of perfectly merging more and different bloodlines. The activation span of Azura mode has been tripled and will increase with the purity of bloodlines used in this mode. The total number of bloodlines that can be merged at once has been increased to 8 bloodlines at once. The host can choose which bloodlines to merge based on his personal presence. The number of bloodlines that can be used in Azura mode will increase with the host's rank. Buff in physical strength increased to 400% in this form. Buff in magical skills and abilities increased by 200% while using the Azura mode. Current skill use time limit, 45 minutes. Note: the same effects of Azura mode can now be added to the Spirit Replica skill. There is no skill activation time limit on Spirit Replica as long as the host can provide a stable source of world energy to this skill. Reported the system. And it was truly worth spending 40 trillion Harlan. Spoke Khan with a smug expression. Because unlike his previous bloodline merge ability where he could barely mix 3 bloodlines and use the Azura mode for meager 15 minutes, but now that the Metamorphosis bloodline became a mythical rank bloodline, the time was tripled. And most importantly, he could even transform into even a dragon or a god beast in the future. All he needed was their bloodline at 100% purity, and Khan could transform into almost anything. Thanks to absolute transformation, He won't be just morphing like other beings, but completely change his aura, bloodline and body's affinity with elements and physical, as well as magical skills that particular race and species was specialized in. It's much more effective than just changing his face or physical appearance. And if Khan's assumptions were right, even a saint rank being won't be able to see through his perfect disguise at this point. And the potential to use different bloodlines will increase with his rank. So the applications were simply limitless. So compared to the gains Khan received, even the 40 trillion was a very small price for such a broken and OP ability. 2 days later, both Omega and Ronin returned and met Khan. They held a meeting inside Dimensional Domain and everyone walked through all the intel brought by the two subordinates. "This place," said Khan and then pointed out a particular place on the map of the capital brought by Ronin. To the place he wanted to go first inside the capital Arkensen. "Will be our hideout." After 10 days of constant travel and changing many routes as well as his appearance 4 times, Khan and the crew finally arrived at the capital of the Vulcan Empire called Arkensen. Khan took his time hiding his tracks using True Dimension so no one could detect him, and he changed several transportation methods so if anyone tailed him from Oslo City, he wouldn't even imagine that he was in the capital. And after 2 days of rest after the system resurfaced after the upgrade and Ronin brought the required intel about the capital and how things functioned there, the gang finally reached a particular place in Arkensen. Khan already gathered enough information that Arkensen was as vast as Rathna. But the key difference was that it wasn't divided by districts but 6 different regions that were a few hundred kilometers in the perimeter. Each of them had a different type of structure and living conditions. One section was set in mountains while the other was on seashores. One section was at the peak of industrial advancement while the other being the biggest economic hub of the capital. Unlike the Rocco's Empire, there was no government in charge or any noble factions who controlled one sector of the empire or had their people in positions of authority. Everything was under the control of the Fireborns and the whole empire was governed under an imperialism structure. After the imperial clan, the strongest force was the Church of Hetrax, which was the only and official religion of the empire. And also, there were many temples and sanctuaries made for deities who accepted servitude to god Hetrax. The 9 deities who served Hetrax were called the 9 Eternal Flames. There was even a folktale about how the one to get the blessings from all 9 deities would become the personification of these deities and will have the right to become the official spokesperson of their god. As for Khan, he stopped at the one section that he desperately wanted to settle in first. Unlike his previous preference in Rathna, it was neither an industrial area nor an economic hub, but the section that was specialized in smithing and forging. The place that was the biggest manufacturing region of weapons and armors in the whole empire. Khan finally arrived in Nidavellir, also nicknamed as Home of the Dwarves. Khan and the team walked across the crowded streets of Nidavellir that were bustling with millions of people in just a few squares spread across this region established over a dozen enormously vast mountains that were connected to each other perfectly. The architecture, the buildings, gigantic statues, constructs, and the well-developed settlement here made Oslo City look like a backwater town. They entered a tavern to take rest and gather some information from the locals. They all took a seat over the left corner, and just when they were about to place their order and enjoy the local food, "Who allowed humans to enter here?" shouted a red foxkin as he looked at Khan, Cyril, Jugram, Armin, and Ronin. Unlike Omega, Blackwell, and Oliver, the rest of the subordinates looked like pure humans. The red foxkin then pointed out towards a sign that said, "No humans allowed," that was hung on the wall. "Get out," spoke the foxkin. Just then, a gray rabbitkin woman walked in. "Nick, they're already seated here. Stop making it a big deal," spoke the rabbit woman with 2 long, pointed and fluffy ears who seemed to be the cashier of the tavern. "Judy, I already told you. No humans in my tavern," he said in an exasperated tone. "These bastards only ruin everything wherever they go." He continued in a contemptuous tone. "All right, we will go," spoke Khan and signaled their crew to leave. He gave a look towards the duo of fox and rabbit named Nick Va Judy and spoke to himself. "Why do I feel like I've seen them somewhere before?" asked Khan to himself. "Master, I want to teach them a lesson for disrespecting us. Spoke Cyril as his hands trembled with rage. No need. They're just common people following the set of beliefs instilled by the ruling authorities and religious institutions. Besides, this will be the same case all over the empire. Are you going to beat the crap out of millions of people? Asked Khan. He let that insult go because that's what the situation was for humans in many places. And Khan didn't have time or the will to play the game of oppressor and dictators. Not in a place where he was a wanted person. Khan then sent the 3 subordinates who looked like hybrids and demi-humans to gather some information in crowded places. All they did was throw around some hundreds of Harlans, and in half an hour, they reported back after people willingly gave them all the useful information they wanted. 1 Harlan was equivalent to 1 gold dramus in this empire, so nobody could resist the temptation of earning such a large sum just for some directions. There are 3 places we could go. The closest one is in the west, just 20 kilometers away. Spoke Oliver. Khan and the group then traveled to 2 big buildings where thousands of people were either customer or worked in weapon manufacturing companies. However, they weren't allowed to enter both of them. Again, because their side had humans in it. And given the population, humans were already a species with the lowest count in this empire. So their business didn't even feel the need of having humans as customers. And finally, they stopped in front of the gates of a big headquarters. Compared to the previous 2 places, it wasn't crowded or even had half the people entering or leaving. And there was no restriction on humans from entering either. Forget restrictions. There weren't even proper guards stationed at the main entrance. Khan then looked at the massive plaque made of jade and read the name of this weapon-forging enterprise, the Awakens. Khan and the gang walked inside this huge headquarters that was spread over 7 kilometers of the vicinity and had too many sections such as visitations, receptions for the particular types of orders, and many buildings solely created for forging the types of equipment. Over a year ago, Khan also dealt in the weapon manufacturing industry, so he knew what kind of top-notch technology and forging machines were placed here just from a single glance. This time, Omega took the lead as the leader and inquired at the grand reception. I'm here to meet Master Awakens. I would like to hire him for a commission of weapons and armors. Spoke Omega. Currently, Master Awakens isn't taking any commissions. Responded the woman at reception who had the body of a hippopotamus. Why? Our order won't be small, and we have more than enough to even pay extra if Master Awakens takes our order. I'm talking billions, said Omega as he tried to persuade the reception lady. Sigh. The speed was too fast, and with a swoosh, Wang Xian was pulled into the whirlpool, like a little crucian carp that had been hooked and was violently pulled out of the water. Instead of getting excited, the hippokin woman sighed helplessly. Oh, what's going to happen next? We'll be taking commissions from street beggars? She grumbled. Follow me, she said, and casually walked towards the inner rooms for VIP customers. Doesn't something strike you as odd here? Asked Blackwell to others. Yes. Compared to the other 2 places we visited before, there are barely 2,000 people here, while those buildings had more than 20,000 people. And the security here is very lax, as if they intentionally left it open for the thieves to come in. Said Oliver. My guess is that something bad has happened here. Wasn't this place supposed to be an arms forging company of one of the top 5 blacksmiths of the entire Vulcan Empire? If you dare to fish against him like this, no matter if it's a strange thing on a mobile phone or that ferocious giant fish, you'll have to pay the price. But now it looks more like an abandoned house. Spoke Ronan. And finally, the receptionist lady brought them to the VIP. But before they even took their seats, clang, the noise of someone throwing off a table reached their ears. You traitors! You're jumping ships as soon as things got a bit hard. Is that all our partnership of 2 decades meant to you? A fizzy is mocking him. Alex and Morty. If you want to null the contract, you'll have to pay the penalty first. A loud voice of an old and grumpy dwarf reached their ears. Thud. We'd rather pay 10 trillion for a penalty than stick with you. This is all your fault. So don't you dare put the blame on us. Spoke a lionkin as he angrily kicked the door and exited the main office. Following him was a zebrakin donned in the green attire of a businessman. You and that big mouth of yours has created a big mess. Don't drag us in the mud with you, said the zebra man. Facepalm. Then it was noisy and motionless. Instead of reviving here, it chose to disguise it. Khan facepalmed himself as he had a sense of déjà vu. Someone is really running out of creativity these days, he said and looked towards the duo of lion and zebra called Alex and Morty. Great. Now that's the last of our biggest dealers. We're doomed, spoke the hippopotamus. Gloria, bring them in. A hoarse voice of an old man resounded in the hall. Tap, tap. Great. Another trouble, spoke Khan as he sensed a group of people coming towards the main office with an aura filled with rage. If one's piece of sword energy can't solve the problem, then take a few more pieces. Wang Xian is going to kill it. Soon, over 20 dwarves walked in a group, and the one to lead them was the most lavishly dressed old dwarf. All these dwarves were only 2 feet in height, so to Khan's group, they appeared like kindergarten students. Come out, Oak and Shield, spoke the dwarf. Step, step. Ah, I must be dreaming. What the hell are you doing here? Wait, what's the meaning of this? Spoke the old dwarf who just walked out of his office. We're sorry, master, but he offered to take us in his company, and all of us accepted the deal. Spoke a young dwarf who seemed like a seasoned blacksmith based on the shape of his palms and ripped arms. You damn rodents. I could accept others betraying me, but all of you too, spoke this old dwarf with disbelief as if the ground beneath him shattered. And who do you think came to ask me first? Asked the other old dwarf in a coy tone. To lead them all into joining you, no, that can't be, spoke the former as his words stopped midway. Step, step. Suddenly, a young dwarf who previously stood at the end of this group walked forth and came out into their sight. I'm sorry, master. It was my initiative to join the Armikbar company. You have lived your life in glory and gained a lot of reputation in the past 5 decades. But for us, we can't risk our lives and our careers because of your mistake. Besides, Master Torek has promised to make us his personal pupils already. I hope you understand our situation as well, spoke the young dwarf. To his words, the former old dwarf seemed heartbroken, as if he experienced the biggest betrayal of his life. Yet he tried to control his grief and anger. To think that I once thought of you as my best pupil and even planned to groom you into becoming my successor. Listen, Helsi, you have greatly disappointed me. Now I feel like even a stray cat would be worth raising than teaching a snake like you, he said with a crestfallen expression. Suddenly, the young dwarf's expression turned furious. Stray cat, you're really losing it, you old bastard. Did you really think that all my achievements came from you? You are the one who caused the whole company's downfall and you're blaming me for changing sides, he asked. Ha ha ha. Even your top pupil has forsaken you, Oakenshield. Don't worry, I'll train him better than you, so you may as well commit suicide without any regrets, spoke Master Torek. Humph, you and that buffoon? Hell, I can even pick a random human from the street and teach him till he becomes the best blacksmith in the Empire. You two have nothing on me, rebuked Master Oakenshield. Bold claims. You dare bet your entire reputation and this company on it? Challenged the latter. Why the hell not? You think I'm scared? I can pick anyone and do it, spoke Master Oakenshield. He then looked around the hall where over 40 people were seated and over 9 of them were humans. Anyone here want to become my pupil? He asked in a tyrannical tone. However, a grim silence ensued as no one spoke a word. See, everyone knows you're already doomed. Who the hell in their right mind would want to become your student after what you did? Spoke Master Torek. Gasp! Gasp! Multiple gasps were heard as everyone suddenly noticed a hand lifted up and they all gazed at this courageous figure who dared to accept this offer. The one to suddenly raise his hand and accept this offer was Khan. The heated argument between Master Oakenshield and Master Torek, 2 of the most prestigious and accomplished blacksmiths of the entire Vulcan Empire, took a sudden turn as they challenged each other, and the former ended up declaring that he could even train a human and make him one of the most talented blacksmiths of the new generation. And after that daring declaration, Khan suddenly raised his hand as soon as the opportunity to become the disciple of this master blacksmith arose. Boy, what are you doing? You want to get dragged into some industrial espionage? Asked Rathnar. Whatever it is, do you think I'll get another godsend opportunity to become a disciple of a top blacksmith in the empire? Whatever little problems this company has, I can get rid of them later, replied Khan as he was catching the opportunity at hand before he lost it. Ha ha ha! A human dares to compete against a dwarf in smithing? I guess that's to be expected from someone belonging to that mentally retarded species. Spoke Master Torek as he insulted Khan. Master, should I rip his tongue out? Asked Jugram. Calm down, boys. Things are turning out in our favor on their own. He commanded. You there, human, don't fall for his words. He has a tendency to ruin things because he can't control his anger. If you get mixed up in this matter, you will have a miserable life, said Helsi. Ha! Courageous words coming from a traitor. Don't tell me you're already afraid, taunted Oakenshield. What? You think I'm afraid? You know what? Let's have it your way, spoke Helsi in an enraged tone. Do you dare sign a contract then, Oakenshield? I'm afraid a hot-headed coward like you will back away from his words, spoke Master Torek, who was donned in red robes. You think I'm scared because things have become a little hard for me? I can make a legendary rank weapon in my sleep, you bald bastard. If you want a contract, then let's do it, replied Oakenshield. Soon, they pulled out contracts from their space rings and signed them quickly. Khan on the other end was stupefied. Are all dwarves this hot-headed? They're making decisions in the spur of the moment. He asked himself, let's not go that far, shall we? Spoke Khan as he felt like things were getting out of hand. Shut up. Nobody asked you, spoke Oakenshield, and suddenly, an orange aura was released from his body. Second stage saint, exclaimed Khan, Omega, and the 6 generals in their minds. Come here, human, said Torek, and released a green saint force. Both of them pulled Khan towards them and signed the contracts. Master, we should retreat, said Omega. Wait, if we try to do that, we will have to reveal our ranks as well. Plus, I don't think you'll find human saints in this empire. We can't afford to have a conflict here, or my identity could be at risk, he said, and stopped his crew from interfering. Instead of resisting, Khan signed the contract to keep his identity concealed and also hoped that he would be able to gain something worthwhile out of their little conflict. And with this, the contract was signed and date of a year later was set for their challenge. Things happened so fast that even Khan was having a hard time accepting the fact that he suddenly got a Saint Blacksmith as his teacher. Master Oakenshield then entered his office and sat on his chair across the table. He pulled a jar of booze and gulped it down in a single go. After a few minutes, his head that was fuming flames of rage finally calmed down, and he closed his eyes with a content smile on his face. Minutes after adjusting his breathing, he opened his eyes and spoke. What the hell was I thinking? Bellowed the Saint Blacksmith loudly. His voice was so loud that it echoed in the entire company building. Stupid, moron, imbecile, said the old dwarf, and slapped himself again and again as he started admonishing his own self. Khan and the crew could hear everything in the 10 kilometers range easily if they focused a bit, so all of them heard his self-deprecating remarks. Damn balls of fire. Why didn't I control myself? I'm doomed. I'm so doomed, said Oakenshield, and he banged his head on the wall. He was regretting his actions from earlier because he was angry as everything was going bad for him recently. And after his pupils and his most favorite disciple also decided to betray him because of what happened a few weeks ago, he completely lost his mind and made that contract because his pride was challenged and his reputation was at stake. Knock! Knock! Just then, Gloria knocked on the door. Master Oakenshield, your disciple would like to see you, said the reception lady. What disciple? Didn't you see how those runts chose to join Torek? He asked. I mean your new disciple, she said with a smile. Clap. Oakenshield grasped his head in annoyance as he remembered the fact that he just took a random nobody and said he'd teach him. On top of it, he was a human, a species at the bottom of the food chain in this empire and also with the least talent for blacksmithing and forging. Tell him to forget about it. Say that I will take the fall. I'm not going to teach him anything, so no need to waste my time, said the old gray-haired dwarf. In the evening, he finally left his office and started walking towards the inner hallway of the building. Tap, tap. Suddenly, a set of footsteps were heard and he saw a familiar figure. Step, step. Oakenshield then sped up as if he wanted to avoid this person. The figure following him started walking fast as well. Step, step. Oakenshield then walked even faster. Step, step. The figure behind him also started walking faster. Sprint. The old dwarf then started sprinting with his tiny little feet. The figure in black also started sprinting behind him. What? Shouted the old blacksmith. To his query, Khan. The man in black and gray longcoat spoke vehemently. Disciple is here to follow your orders. Master. The Saint Blacksmith was speechless after Khan suddenly called him master out of the blue. Although he knew that the contract he made in the fit of anger had messed up things greatly for him. He didn't actually expect this human to stick around and treat this whole charade seriously. What do you mean? I'm not taking you in as my disciple. Don't take what happened seriously. Be on your way and stop lurking here, said the old dwarf. I too signed the contract because you pulled me into this. Are you running away from the responsibility, Master Oakenshield? Asked Khan in a provoking voice. Boom! The very next moment, the second stage dwarf released his threatening saint pressure that spread across the entire building. Everyone who was still inside the building was frozen on the spot, and an insurmountable aura full of killing intent radiated from Master Oakenshield's body. Just because I'm going through a rough patch doesn't mean any random passersby can talk down on me, he said in a grim tone that was enough to give anyone a foreboding of certain death. Unlike others of my race, I don't have anything against the human species. But that doesn't mean I have to treat you any differently than anyone else. So leave before I stop being nice, threatened the old blacksmith. However, the very next second, boom! A black and red aura suddenly exploded from Khan's body and easily overthrew this dense aura as Khan activated the War Dominance blessing. After his rank up, War Dominance was at stage 8. Enough to allow Khan to easily withstand the aura of a third stage saint, so overthrowing this one from a second stage saint wasn't a problem in the slightest. Suddenly, Oakenshield's eyes were also left wide open. You're a saint? He asked in a bewildered tone. Yes, I am, replied Khan in a calm tone. How? Since when can humans in the Vulcan Empire become a saint? The only 2 human saints in the whole empire are Princess Vanessa and Hero of Fire. One is a fireborn while the other is a summoned hero of our god. How come there's another one? He asked again and again. The reason why Khan chose to reveal his rank here was for 2 reasons. 1. If he revealed that he was a saint, the old blacksmith will be less reluctant to teach him, because he had the potential to become a saint-rank blacksmith himself as he already met one of the conditions. 2. Other than the Empire's ruling authorities and the Church of Hetrax, nobody from the common population had any idea about God of Darkness or who the hell was Hero of Darkness either. This matter was already a top secret among the main rulers of the empires of Vantria. So telling the old dwarf in front of him had a far too low risk of this information being leaked. Does it matter? Since I'm a saint, shouldn't that make things easier for you to teach me? He asked. Teach you? Although it makes a lot of things easier. But tell me something honestly, spoke the old dwarf and continued with a somber expression. Have you ever held a hammer in your hands? He queried. No. Then have you ever tried to make a weapon? Asked the master again. No, replied Khan in a carefree tone. Do you ever know how high you need to heat an iron ingot before you use it for forging? No, spoke Khan truthfully. Do you know what's smelting? Yes, he replied with a charming smile. Do you know what quenching and soldering is? Asked the dwarf again. Yes, but have you ever done that? No. Then why the hell are you trying to get mixed into this? Exclaimed the old dwarf. Because I want to learn from the best, spoke Khan as he tried to butter up the old dwarf. However, the old blacksmith's expression turned grim. I already said I'll take the fall, and I'm not going to make a futile effort and waste my time teaching you how to hold a hammer. Besides, it's me whose reputation and company is at risk. Just run away, whatever your name is, spoke Master Oakenshield as he realized that using force against this human wasn't going to work out. It's Khan Salvatore, master, replied Khan. Who the hell is your master? Stop pestering me, boy. I've lived more than 150 years. I already know who is built for blacksmithing and who is not. It's not like I can teach you and make you a saint blacksmith even in a decade either, spoke the old master in an irritated tone. Try me, challenged Khan as he came to realize one fact about this old man, that when provoked, he loses his sound of reason. Don't you dare, boy. If I do take you in as my disciple, I'll make you live inside a hellish nightmare. Besides, my old students betrayed and joined my biggest competitor just this afternoon. Do you think I'll ever trust someone else with my knowledge and techniques? Stop wasting both of our time, spoke the renowned dwarf. Want to make a contract about it then? You have to teach me, and I can't leave your tutelage for 1 year until I'm done facing that Helsey guy, asked Khan in a coy tone. So far, his method of reeling in this old man was working. Ha ha ha. Good. Since I'm going to need someone to let out my frustration, it's good to see that someone is willing to make a sacrifice on their own volition, he said and gave Khan a fierce look. But you should know this. Being a blacksmith doesn't come free. You'll have to pay me a huge amount of money to learn from me, spoke the saint blacksmith. How much? Asked Khan. To his question, the old man only showed him 2 fingers of his right hand. 2 billion? Asked Khan with a shocked tone. The old dwarf shook his head. Don't tell me 2 trillion? Are you insane? Said Khan. To his query, the old man kept smiling and spoke with a wicked smile as he revealed the price of the tuition fees. 20 trillion. Khan was flabbergasted as soon as he heard the exorbitant price that the old blacksmith demanded, just to teach him blacksmithing skills and weapon forging. The old man was asking for 20 trillion from the get-go. Are you trying to rob me? Who do you think I am? The emperor? Exclaimed Khan. Take it or leave it, spoke Oakenshield. He's knowingly telling you that price, so that it'd deter you from tagging along here. Rest is up to you, boy. Unlike us, you can learn multiple jobs and weapons because of those blessings from the war deity. So it's your decision regarding your future, spoke Rathnar in Khan's mind. System, will it be possible for me to learn and even break through to Saint rank blacksmith? Asked Khan to the system. Given the host's current rank and physiology, the system affirms that the host can learn any job and their skills up to Saint rank easily, informed the system. Khan's face twitched on the spot and almost wanted to punch the old dwarf in front of him. Deal, spoke Khan reluctantly. Oh ho, you're incredibly wealthy for a human. Aren't you afraid that I might rob you here, human? Asked the old dwarf. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next second, 7 figures suddenly appeared on the spot. We'd like to see you try that, Master Oakenshield, spoke Omega as all of them let out their auras one by one, enough to pressure the old dwarf and freeze him on the spot. Because although only Omega was comparable to a legit second-stage saint, all of them had the strength to easily fight a second-stage saint and even stand against a third-stage saint. The former could even fight a fourth-stage saint at his maximum capacity. And now they had surrounded the old dwarf. You? Who are you people? Exclaimed the old blacksmith as he noticed the killing intent in their eyes. Although he was a second-stage saint, he wasn't a warrior but a pure blacksmith. Well, to be honest, Master Oakenshield, we're not from around here. The main reason why I even came to your company was to place a commission for weapons and armors. Even though I got mixed up in your affairs, which is partly my fault, I still need your services, explained Khan as he gave the old dwarf some vague information, then making him feel threatened. But before the old dwarf could ask any questions about his background, Khan summoned something out of his space ring. Thud! A massive 2-meter black nail, part of a beast's claw, was plunged into the floor by Khan. What the hell is this? Asked Oakenshield. You're the expert. You should know better, said Khan in a mocking tone. The old dwarf quickly pulled some goggles out of his ring and started examining this massive black nail. Dragon! That's a dragon's claw. How did you get your hands on one? And the dragon clearly was a mythical rank 1 based on the durability and aura it's emitting. I can easily make a legendary rank weapon from it, exclaimed the old dwarf as his eyes gleamed in shock and then excitement. I'd rather not reveal that, said Khan. And besides, he then continued in a smug tone. I have more, he said with a grin. To his revelation, the old dwarf didn't show any surprise but then signaled him to follow behind. 2 minutes later, all of them reached below the deepest part of the building, and there was a vast hall filled with giant forging equipment. This place was 2 kilometers in overall perimeter and filled with machines that even Khan hadn't seen before. This is a place where I personally forge weapons and armors. There aren't many people who have seen it, said Oakenshield and pointed towards a 500-meter wide open space. Khan understood the signal, and the very next second, he pulled out more giant dragon claws, bones, fangs, horns and hide that quickly filled the space. These were the exact remains from the body of the guardian dragon that he couldn't completely absorb. And all the parts came from only half of the body of the mythical rank dragon, who was 1 kilometer in height alone. Shiver. Shock. The old blacksmith suddenly shivered and fell on the floor as his entire body was covered in goosebumps. You're some Empire's prince, aren't you? He asked Khan in a befuddled tone. Something like that, replied Khan with a smirk. Although he wasn't a legit prince, he was a sovereign of a fiefdom. Even a prince didn't have the amount of power he held in Verlassen until they became the emperor themselves. So Khan didn't bother hiding that part. And the more misunderstanding the old blacksmith had about his background, the better for him. So, what can you make with this? He asked. What do you want me to make with this? I can basically make everything with it. Weapons, armors, knives, arrows, and even clothes with that hide. You even have an entire horn of a dragon. That's the sturdiest part of its body. A weapon with that can easily overpower another legendary rank weapon, replied the dwarven saint. Khan was overjoyed after hearing this response from the saint blacksmith. Then I have another question. If I were to give you some other materials and already made armors and weapons, will you be able to reforge them using the dragon's body parts? He queried. Of course, who in the 7 hells do you think I am? As long as you give me good materials, I can make you anything and reforge any shoddy equipment you have, said the blacksmith in a prideful tone. Then how about this? Said Khan, and the next moment, boom! A loud noise filled the underground forge as Khan's body was covered in a black and red demonic armor that emitted blistering heat and had small veins of magma running through it. And in his right hand, a red vein-patterned black greatsword appeared. This time, the saint blacksmith was too stunned to speak after he saw Khan suddenly equipping Dracos armor and Lucifer that had risen to legendary rank after he became a saint. The old blacksmith then asked in a jittery voice as he quickly examined the armor and the sword, "What kind of monster made this?" Khan and the crew had a curious gaze because as soon as he summoned the Dracos armor and Lucifer to show them to the old dwarven saint blacksmith, the first thing that came out of his mouth was asking which monster made these. The main reason why came to this section of the capital first was to have a saint-rank blacksmith reforge all of his weapons, gears and Dracos armor via Lucifer using the dragon's parts. And the sense of urgency he felt was because of the fact that was brought to his attention by Rathnar himself, that he had no divine weapon, and even with the potential, his current armor and sword was not even qualified to stand against a divine weapon of a chosen hero for long. And hence, using a legitimate dragon's body parts to either create a new set or reforge the current one was his best available option. Khan was even willing to pay a hefty sum for it, but he was curious if the old one still had a chance, so he displayed it to Oakenshield to quench his curiosity. "What do you mean? Are they bad?" he asked the old blacksmith. "Bad? If this is bad, then I don't know what good is. This is a perfect combination of blacksmithing and artificing, something extremely hard to achieve in our trade. I would even go as far as to say crazy things such as both of them look like the work of the same person. There's perfect synergy between the armor and all the runes and engravings hidden on it. And you can summon it at will means someone also performed a blood-binding ritual on it. Revealed the old blacksmith as he explained his reasons and why he called it work of a monster. I can feel that the only thing that stopped the blacksmith was the lack of high-quality materials and his or her limited rank. This looks like a legendary rank armor even though it's only made from a magma drake's body. But I see that it has a potential to become even higher grade in the future. Seriously, who made this? Exclaimed and asked again. But before Khan could reply, Omega in his normal human form pulled out his katana. Raijin, what about this? He asked. That's in Vimarak's tusk. It's extremely hard to even process and make a perfect curved blade out of it, said the Saint Blacksmith. He then carefully touched the runes and red engravings on the blade that glowed by themselves. And these engravings and runes, it's a work of at least a peak Grandmaster Artificer. In the whole Vulcan Empire, there are only 11 peak Grandmaster Artificer elves who are proficient in such work. But there's always a risk of the weapon not reaching its maximum potential because the artificers lack knowledge and understanding of the forging techniques for that particular weapon. Just making some magic formations on a weapon doesn't help. The width, density, length, base material, and their properties, you have to balance every single aspect properly. He iterated. One by one, everyone else started showing them their equipments and armors that Albestros Winston, the top and peak Grandmaster Blacksmith of the Rocco's Empire, made himself. They even showed him how their armors changed their colors and he could summon both their clothes and weapons at will. Khan then told him about the Pendragon formation and its effects. All of these are pure works of art. This type of work is much more refined than any peak Grandmaster rank blacksmith can make in our empire. That Pendragon formation is very hard to make because all the involved armors need to be of the same base material and only one artificer can work on all of them to connect them magically. Most of the dwarves excel only in making a strong and incredibly durable weaponry. But they lack the knowledge and control to perfectly balance these runes and magic formation engravings that can enhance the overall strength of the end product greatly. Unless you are a saint rank blacksmith yourself, you can't match them properly. Tell me, who the hell made these incredible armors and weapons? Asked the old dwarf. Khan and the company were too shocked, although they already knew how talented and genius of a blacksmith old man Albestros was. But they never understood the gravity of the situation. It took a legit Saint Blacksmith to praise the old man's work for them to realize this fact that they were living with a once-in-a-century level of talented blacksmith from the past 2 years. And the most surprising fact was that Albestros wasn't even a saint-rank blacksmith yet. Just imagining how big of a monster he would become after breaking through that rank gave them goosebumps. Would you believe me if I told you that a human, who is half your age, made it? Said Khan. You're lying. That's impossible. This work even puts some saint-rank dwarven blacksmiths to shame, said Master Oakenshield. I would like to meet that human, he demanded. Like I said, we're not from here, and that's why I came to see you. Refused Khan. Revealing his origin or even Albestro's identity here was a no-go for him. So what do you say? Will you take the commission as well? Asked Khan. Bloody yes. This is the first time I'm getting a chance to work with a mythical rank dragon's body parts in my life. The last time I worked with draconian species materials was 60 years ago, and back then, it was only a wyvern. This will probably become my life's best work. Spoke the old dwarf with enthusiasm. Then how about you reforge them for all of us? Asked Khan as he deactivated the armor and the sword. Sure. But know that it will cost you a lot of money as well, replied the old blacksmith. How much? Queried Khan. 20 trillion, replied Oakenshield. Are you fucking with me? Shouted Khan. 20 trillion just for reforging 7 armor sets and weapons, he said in an exasperated voice. But the following moment, Master Oakenshield shook his head again and spoke with a tone full of wisdom. 20 trillion. For one set. Everyone from his crew was left speechless as they heard the outrageous price again. But this time, the same price was revealed by this old and hateful Saint Blacksmith, who seemed like Khan's great-grandfather in terms of greed for money. But his greed was so big that he was charging this high amount only for one set of armor, clothes, and weapons. And since there were 7 of them, it would mean they needed to pay 140 trillion Harlan. "You're trying to rip us off, old man," shouted Cyril. "You know what? I'll go to someone else," declared Khan. He too felt like this was a total scam. "Good luck with that. They'll charge you even more and none can guarantee the quality of the work like I do," spoke Master Oakenshield as if he didn't care. "That's not a bluff, boy. He's a real deal. I have known some saint-rank dwarf blacksmiths in my time as well. There are 2 things they don't lie about as it's taboo for their race and profession. 1. They don't lie about their capabilities as a blacksmith. 2. Their promise to deliver upon the final product," spoke Rathnar in his mind. "What's so special about your case then?" asked Khan in an irritated tone. "You think working with a dragon's body parts is a joke? It takes tens of hours just to get them at the right temperature and start forging. On top of it, I will need to reforge them without ruining the previously engraved runes and formations while adding in my own ones to improve the quality. It takes months for a single set, and there are 7 of them," explained the old dwarf. "How much time will you need then?" asked Khan curiously. "Given the amount and the processing speed since it's a legitimate dragon, at least 1 year till I'm done with all of your weapons, clothes, and armors. Because they're already made with an Invimerax body. It will take much longer since I will have to carefully mix the dragon's body parts and maintain perfect balance. But trust me, the quality will be far better than any other legendary rank weapons and armors you can find," he affirmed. "Hell, even the Imperial clan's legendary rank weapons won't be comparable if you're at the same level. That I can assure with my pride as Saint Blacksmith," declared the old second stage saint. "And about that thing with becoming my disciple, I won't charge you for that if you're willing to sign a contract with me," he proposed. "What do you all think? Will it be worth it?" he asked the opinion of others. "It's not like we can get a meeting with any Saint Blacksmith easily. And they certainly won't make you their disciple either," Master said Ronan. "Besides, this man's company is in peril. We can use it to our advantage later," said Jugram. "As for the armors and weapons, we only need 14 trillion Harlans to pay for them to be made. That much can be easily arranged by robbing another auction house." "He seems to know his stuff since he recognized all of Old Man Albestro's work and how he made them just with a single glance," said Cyril. "Yes, he is indeed worthy of his name. I vote for yes," said Omega. Soon, the rest also chimed in and they reached a collective consensus. "Fine, but I'll pay you 20 trillion with each set you make. And the quality should be top-notch, or our contract is nulled," said Khan as he presented his own terms. But without any hesitation, Oakenshield agreed to sign both the commission and apprenticeship contract with Khan. And now, their fates were connected till the next year. Although he was reluctant, Khan still signed the contract, because he just realized that in the future, he had to forge his own weapons and armors by himself. Having someone else do it cost too much money that would be enough to feed villages for months. In a way, this was a necessary investment for his upcoming future, something he might regret if he chose to let go of just for some chummy change. "All right then, now that everything is settled, can you tell us what happened this noon?" asked Khan, and even the other subordinates also perked their ears. An hour passed and the old blacksmith told them exactly what happened a couple of weeks ago and why even his students and old friends betrayed him. But to his sad story, not a single one of the listeners felt any empathy towards him or felt like he was truly wronged. Suddenly, Khan's eyes turned furious and he shouted, "You deceived me, you old bastard! Give me those contracts. I'm gonna tear them off," he said, and almost jumped on the old dwarf, ready to rip him apart in two. Omega and Ronan pulled Khan and stopped him from attacking. He Is that how you talk with your master? Remember the contract? You or neither of your associates can harm me as I'm your teacher and you're my student," said Oakenshield with a smug smile. "Damn! How can you be so old but be so dumb and impatient? Out of all people you had to provoke. You messed with the very kind you shouldn't have," said Khan with a tone full of regret, because now they all understood why everyone was jumping ship and leaving this old rascal and cunning as well as an impatient old dwarf with anger issues. That why even his most trusted pupil chose to betray him. "Why is my luck always so bad? What kind of sick sadist bastard is writing my story?" complained Khan as he cursed himself and whoever put him in such a helpless situation, because his current situation was the one thing Khan wanted to avoid the most. Khan tried to avoid a well but fell from a cliff instead. The Saint Blacksmith was ruined because someone insulted his weapons and works a couple of weeks ago in a banquet between the top nobles and figures of the Vulcan Empire. And given the type of hot-headed person this old Saint Blacksmith was, he openly said that it wasn't his weapons and armors that were at fault, rather the person who didn't have the skills and strength to properly use them. And the one he openly insulted in a fit of rage in front of all the top powers and influential figures was the second prince of the Vulcan Empire. Khan was having nothing but regrets after finding the truth about the matter that happened with the old dwarf Saint Blacksmith. No matter how they looked at it, they were caught off in the crosshairs between the second imperial prince and this lying and conniving bastard of a dwarf who intentionally hid all that information till Khan was done with signing off their contracts and made a deal. If it was just some local tycoon or some overlord of this region, he and his people were fully capable of dealing with those types of people, and unlike the Rukon district from Rathna, they were now far experienced enough to not leave a single clue behind. But an imperial prince. And that too was when everyone was aware of the situation about what happened between the two parties during the banquet held for the nobles. Khan was certain that if there weren't too many people watching, the second prince would have simply had Oakenshield killed on the spot. And anyone with their sanity intact would make that decision of jumping the ship since it was the obvious choice in order to survive against the wrath of the Prince of the Empire. And now, because of his eagerness and greed for the armors and weapons made from the guardian dragon's body, Khan made a hasty decision and got himself mixed into the very kind of matters he wanted to avoid at all cost. He really hit his own foot with an axe. "TCH, what are you so worried about? It's not even a big deal," spoke Rathnar. "Oh really? Wasn't it you who said that I should go with the deal?" asked Khan in a sarcastic tone. "Don't worry, I know a way to get out of this situation easily," replied Rathnar. "How?" asked Khan with a curious tone. "It's simple, we take out the second prince," he replied. Facepalm. Khan facepalmed himself as if he was done with his quota of bullshit ideas for the day. Master Oakenshield, who was sitting in front of their group, raised an eyebrow as he was unaware of Khan's inner conversation and wondered what caused this reaction. "Do you have any idea? We're nobodies here. How the hell are we going to do that? And why the hell would I go that far? The whole empire will be after me," he yelled inside. "Who the hell do you think I am, boy? I fought against empires and their chosen heroes by myself. You may have some good and cunning plans, but I am the one with much more experience here. This situation of yours, although very problematic, can still be reversed," stated Rathnar in a carefree tone. "How? Become the resistance? What do you mean?" asked Khan. "In a fight, you know that one side is weak while the other side is the best. Who do you think will win?" asked the Peak Saint. "The best," responded Khan. "But who do you want to win?" asked the First Emperor again. "The weak," replied Khan without a second thought. "See, that's the concept behind it. People are thrilled and want to see the underdog win. The second prince is the oppressor. So spread the news about it and also your competition against the Helsey guy. And you will become the resistance," elaborated Rathnar. But Khan rolled his eyes in annoyance. "Are you insane? This is an imperial rule. Do you think anyone would dare to go against the imperial prince? No underworld organizations would help you do the job. People's sentiments here won't work because even with public outrage, No one is going to do shit because that's straight-up execution. There's nothing like Rocco's empire here. The Imperial clan is the true ruler and their word is the absolute law. Rebuked Khan. That's just the beginning. He's an Imperial prince, right? So who do you think will be his biggest enemies and who would benefit the most? Asked Rathnar in a wicked voice. Khan suddenly raised his eyebrows as he came to realize the key factor of Rathnar questions. It wasn't them who had much to lose, but the second Imperial prince himself. See, if you play your cards right, not only will you get out of this situation, the old dwarf will have a lot of attention as well as backers lining up. If anything were to happen to you, the blame would fall on the second prince. Forget targeting you. That guy will have to send his people to protect you, and it will also help you create a better cover-up for your story. Said Rathnar, and soon he told Khan how to retain his gains and also overturn the situation in his favor. That's how I dealt with many uprisings and enemy empires who attacked us. Spoke the first emperor. Khan and everyone else agreed with his plans as all of them were in awe after listening to a true expert. Tell me your name, shameless master, said Khan as he looked at the old dwarf with the eyes of a predator. Throk Oakenshield, and address me properly, human. I'm your teacher now, spoke the old dwarf. Bah, teacher my ass. Listen, let's negotiate our deal again, said Khan, and in the following 10 minutes, he told him their plan. Think about it. Can get rid of all of your problems. Get back your reputation. Hell, it can get you even stronger backers and allies in the process. He iterated in a coy tone. But in return, you will tear off those contracts we signed. And you will have to do the commission for free for armors and weapons for all of us. I can even wait for a year. Negotiated Khan. And why would I do that? Asked Throk in a discontent voice. To his query, Khan let out a devilish smirk and spoke in a benign voice. Because over-the-top authorities of an empire, spoke Khan and bragged with a charming smile. I'm an expert in that. Khan already pitched in his idea and now even bragged about himself to reel in the old dwarf who previously screwed them over. You think I can't do that myself? Retorted the Saint Dwarf. Oh really? Do you think anyone will risk their lives for you? Look around, liar master. Your company is doomed. You have no supporters and you certainly don't have a single person who would fight for your sake if you were to be found dead tomorrow. Spoke Khan. Bang. He banged his fist on the table in between them and continued in an intimidating tone. I'm your only hope now, otherwise you're so done. Soon you won't even have a place to stay in the entire Vulcan Empire. Do you want to die a death of a beggar or agree to my new terms and reclaim everything you lost? Provoked Khan. So you're going to teach me and you're going to make all of our armors. And you're going to help me create a perfect background in this empire. He said. At the same time, Khan made a query to the system. Can it be done? Yes. Replied the system. In my case, you're going to make all kinds of weapons with the dragon's body parts. All for free. He spoke in a tyrannical tone. Because sword was one thing, he needed to learn different weapons and fighting techniques as well. And he clearly didn't have time to waste on making them one by one or going through an arc progression of some novel to get them made one by one or look for some ancient ruins to find a godly weapon by luck. That sort of stuff didn't work in real life. So Khan wanted to max out his gains at the same time during this negotiation. What for? Aren't you just a swordsman? Hell, even teaching you blacksmithing skills is already like climbing a mountain. If not for me being a saint rank dwarf and knowing the secret technique of our trade, I wouldn't have even taken you as my disciple. Retorted the dwarf. That's none of your business. You do your part and I do mine, said Khan as he gave an overbearing look to the old dwarf. If you refuse, I can just watch from the sidelines and act like a victim as well. Many people saw how you forcefully pulled me into signing that duel of blacksmiths thing. With those witnesses, you'll lose whatever reputation you built in all those decades. And also, no one will ever believe that I'm a saint even if you try to tell someone else. You simply have no choices at this point. One after another, Khan hit him with threats and facts. In return, we will protect you from local enemies as well as those sent by the Imperial Prince. We will help you run your company since you have lost all your suppliers and distributors. In other words, this isn't a master and disciple relationship, rather that of partners," said Khan as he was done with finally relaying his new terms. "Now think carefully and make a wise choice, or there's no coming back from this," he said, and soon, all of them left the office. For the next couple of hours, Throck Oakenshield kept thinking about Khan's plans. And one thing he came to see was that although he was a saint, he couldn't even achieve the first phase of the plans on his own since he was only a blacksmith and not a fighter-class individual. And the way things stood, he didn't have a single person on his side. So like Khan said, whatever decision he made would be the turning point of his life. As for Khan himself, although it looked like he was going to get entangled in unnecessary trouble as he did with the three noble factions in the Rakos Empire, there were still too many things to gain from taking this risk. Because at the end of the day, there wasn't any other Saint Blacksmith Dwarf in the whole Vulcan Empire who was going through the same ordeal. And forget making a deal or teaching him the blacksmithing skills. No one would even welcome him through their front door. Him being a human was a great issue as well. Because in the end, he always used his weapons and armors in his human form. Even if he were to change his species and go to some other blacksmith, they'd still have to make his weapons and armors based on the form of the species he took. Hence he visited this place instead of going to others before things turned the way they were now. But with Rathnar's ingenious plan, he was still going to get everything he wanted. And this time, he wasn't even going to enter the battlefield but use someone else as his weapon. 2 hours later, they all returned to the old blacksmith's office and sat on the seats across the table. "So what's your decision?" asked Khan. To his question, the old blacksmith asked a question in return. "Can you guarantee it will work? How are you going to do it without revealing your identity? We cannot have anything leading back to us," spoke Throck. "Leave that to us. Even if we were to fail the first phase, nothing could be tracked and lead to us," replied Ronan, who sat behind Khan. "Sigh." Throck then let out a sigh and then pulled something out of his drawer. "Tear." He tore off all the contracts that they previously made. And given how both parties needed each other, there were no more contracts signed but only a verbal pact was made. Khan then went over some of the details of the first phase of the plan and spoke. "All right, boys. We're not going to waste any time on this. Instead of making enemies, we will be making some friends instead," he declared. "After all, an enemy of an enemy is a friend," he said with a wicked smile. "And the people we will be befriending will be," spoke Khan, and revealed the names of the biggest enemies of the second prince and the very people who were going to become both their swords and shields. The first prince, Va, the third princess. 10 days later, in one of the inner sections of the capital Arkensen was a massive villa surrounded by thousands of soldiers of the imperial clan, where a secret meeting was being held in a large hall that included some of the top figures of the empire. But suddenly, the entire room was covered in a pitch-black domain out of nowhere, and all the attendees were pulled inside it out of nowhere. Shing! An unbearably oppressive aura was exerted on these people, some of who were saints up to second-stage saints at best. But no one except one person managed to stay awake while everyone else fainted on the spot. A second-stage Saint Fireborn, who was not targeted by this aura, pulled out a battle axe and was ready to attack as he quickly understood that they were under attack. Click! But before he could move, a long blade-style sword appeared over his neck. Soon, multiple figures in red hoods and a black mask appeared in front of this Fireborn who had bright red hair, 2 glowing red horns coming out from the back of his head, and a humanoid physique. "You dare attack me, the first prince of the Vulcan Empire? Do you have a death wish?" exclaimed the first prince, Hector Hoes Siegfried, in a furious voice. The hooded figure who had his blade over Hector's neck quickly pulled away his sword and kneeled as well. But before he could ask any questions, the figures in front of him quickly kneeled. "My apologies, Imperial Prince. Please know that we're from your side. We had to hijack this meeting because it was the perfect way to meet you without raising the suspicions of those who are monitoring you," spoke the person who was in the center of this group. From his voice, anyone could tell that it was an old person behind the mask. "This does not justify you breaking into my villa," Give me a reason why I shouldn't have all of you executed for this crime," asked Hector in a grim tone. He was a second-stage saint and around 35 years old, but his appearance was that of an experienced warrior. "Please listen to us, Your Highness. We're not your enemies. We're here to provide you with some important information. Could not wait, so we had to make this abrupt move and use this method to isolate you from the outside world and warn you about an opportunity," spoke the old individual. "What kind of information?" asked Hector as he was instantly back in command. "An information to take down the second imperial prince," said this old person behind the mask. Soon, they presented him with the information about what happened between Throck and the second prince 2 weeks ago. But the information was buried by the prince by having all the people sign a contract of secrecy. No one was an exception to this. But knowing it was a member of the imperial family, everyone kept their mouths shut even now. So other than Throck and the people who were present at that banquet, nobody else knew. "How did you find out about this then?" asked Hector. "There are many people who serve you, my prince. We just decided to show up today because time was of the essence and we had to start the first phase of the grand plan," responded the old person with a respectful tone towards the prince. "What grand plan?" asked Hector in a curious voice. "To make you the next emperor, my prince." "And why would you do that?" asked Hector without any surprise on his face. "You may be unaware of our existence, Your Highness, but there are too many people who support you from the imperial clan as well as outside. In our eyes, you're a true fireborn and the only one with the qualities of an emperor. Someone worthy to support and follow, unlike that egomaniac second prince and the half-breed princess," revealed the leader of the red-clothed intruders. "Just that we can't reveal our identity for your own safety. It will also risk you if anyone found that we were connected to you," he explained. "How can I trust you? You are all behind masks," he said in a commanding tone. "Well, if we were enemies, having you killed here when no one could interfere wouldn't be any problem for us," said this leader, and soon he started explaining the elaborate plan on how to take down the second imperial prince and defame him to the point that he would be kicked out of the race to the throne and might even lose his identity as a member of the imperial family. "Think about it. Most importantly, it would make Her Highness, the first queen, and your mother the happiest person," spoke this leader at the end of their conversation. As soon as those words reached his ears, the first prince was rooted on the spot. Khan said those words and hit the nail. Because one thing they had gathered in the past 10 days by infiltrating their ranks, placing his assassins in hundreds of people around the first prince, as well as his mother's clan under Rathnar's orders, led to them gaining crucial information about the first prince. That he didn't have a good relationship with his father, the current emperor, since childhood. And the emperor only married his mother to gain the support of their clan of Fireborns, which was one of the 6 main clans. But years later, for some reason, he married another woman from another clan. And a couple of years later, he married a human woman, who was a princess of a friendly empire to maintain a good relationship with them. But later, he cut off all ties with his mother and then stopped talking with him as well since he was but a child. In those decades, his mother was the only one who cared for him. So now she was the most important part of his life. He listened to everything she said and always sought her approval. So in conclusion, that the first prince was actually the mama's boy. The first prince was a victim of not receiving proper attention from his father while growing up. There were some years that he hadn't even seen him face to face. And since his childhood, he only had his mother as someone who gave him moral support. He ended up being too much cared for as she doted on her son endlessly, which most mothers did when they had to raise a child. But that excessive love had shaped the first prince into becoming someone who lost his sound of reason when things involved his mother. And Khan was going to use this fact to his advantage to cement his proposal with the first prince. "We need to use this opportunity before the third princess gets her hands on this information as well," spoke Khan in the voice of an old person. "How do you Vanessa has access to this information?" asked Hector in a suspicious tone. "She has her spies mixed in the second prince's side," revealed Khan. "How do you know that?" asked the first prince again. "Because we already tracked one of her spies in your group as well," he revealed. "What kind of nonsense are you spouting?" shouted Hector as he couldn't believe one of his own people being a traitor. "Clap, clap, bring him in." Con clapped twice and soon, a 3-meter-tall body of Blackwool under the same set of red clothes and hood along with the black mask appeared. But in his hands was a chained and gagged figure whose face was hidden under a sack. "Who?" asked Hector. Blackwool then pulled off the sack and revealed another fireborn man around the same age as Hector. "Elmo!" exclaimed Hector with a shocked expression. "You should see this, Your Highness," spoke Con and activated a recording artifact. Soon, the holographic scene of Elmo directly reporting the routine and recent plans of the first prince to Vanessa ran in the middle of the hall. In that recording, Vanessa also called him an incapable runt who can't do anything without his mother telling him. "Boom! I trusted you since we were in the Royal Academy. How can you betray me, you bastard?" shouted Hector as his eyes were fumed with rage. "I won't talk, no matter how much you torture me. As for you, Hector, even a street thug is a better leader than you," said Elmo, whose face was all battered up. As those words reached his ears, the first prince was completely infuriated. "What do you want me to do about this rat, Your Highness?" asked Con in an obedient tone. "Give me your sword," said Hector and looked towards Omega, who was kneeling under the disguise. "Yes, my Imperial Highness," Omega said and gave him his sword while bowing respectfully. Slash! The prince cuts off Elmo's head without a second thought in a fit of rage. After finding out that one of his decade-long friends was actually a spy sent by Vanessa. Ronan, who was kneeling behind Con, then got up and pulled the body in his space ring. Cyril cast off the restoration spell and cleared the site, leaving no trace or single blood splatter. Dozens of minutes passed and Hector finally calmed himself down. He was now certain that these people who vehemently kneeled in front of him and even revealed a traitor among his ranks were indeed loyal to him. But in reality, this Elmo was indeed one of Vanessa's people who had infiltrated the side of the first prince, since who knew when. Con and the company found out about him through the assassins he sent in the shadows, which eventually led them to get their hands on this secret information. However, they did not have an innocent person killed just for the sake of their plans. Because just now, the Elmo that the first prince just killed now was only an illusion. Without even realizing it, the first prince was under the effect of an illusion spell cast by Cyril, who was mixed in between the people kneeling on the ground. The traitor was real and so was the recording. Just that they already informed Elmo about being found out, saying that they were people who supported the princess. They also handed him a note that he was to hand over to Vanessa. And since the first prince wasn't going to see Elmo in his life ever again anyway, they used this spell by the necromancer general, who was comparable to a saint-rank magician himself. So they put on this grand show in order to make Hector end up trusting them, and not have unnecessary doubts about their origins. Because a lie was more believable when there was some truth mixed in it. "We must go, Your Highness. There are many eyes on you. No one can know that we've made contact with you," said Con. "Wait, who are the ones backing me? You can at least tell me that much, right?" asked Hector. "I shouldn't, Your Highness. This is for your own safety in case any one of us is ever caught. You shouldn't risk your fate or our great empire's future for foot soldiers like us. Alas, there's always time for everything. So maybe one day, we will have no reason to hide our faces from you," said Con in a worshipping tone. Hector was suddenly moved by this old person's voice and felt that he indeed had a great burden to carry on his shoulder, like so many people believed him. Con then told him about their next move and how they were going to provide him with evidence that he'd need to take out the second prince. Before he was about to depart, Hector spoke to Con. "You can create a domain. Means you're at least a 5th stage saint. You're old but still show great respect to me. I will repay your loyalty one day," said Hector in a magnanimous tone, since he was made to feel so special after a very long time. "When will I see you again?" asked Hector. Con then bowed respectfully and spoke in a zealous tone. "When you become the crown prince."